Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So last week, not surprisingly, the Pennsylvania State System of Higher Education voted on their grand consolidation plan. As you know, the Commonwealth owns 14 state-owned universities and colleges across the Commonwealth. They want to take 6 of them and then consolidate them down to 2. So they're going to take 3 up in the north. They're going to consolidate them down to 1, and then 3, I guess, out west. They're going to make 1. I don't know what the names are. I don't know what any of the details are, and I don't think anybody else does either. But we're going to do it, which is just insane to me. But again, like I said, not a real surprise here. What was the surprise is that there's like a lot of money being thrown at this. And my question, and I'm going to ask Jamie Martin here this in a second, my question is, if we had money to throw at this to tear it apart, why don't we have money to save it? It just seems wrong to me. And here to share some thoughts on that, I've asked Jamie Martin to come talk with us. Jamie is the president of APSCUF, the union that represents the faculty and the coaches and all of the great folks who make our state-owned universities what they are. Jamie, thanks for taking time for us.
Thank you so much, Rick. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
So let's start with that point. There's, as I understand, $50 million from the rescue plan that's going to go into education. I understand there's another potentially $200 million coming down the road. Republicans have loosened the purse strings there. If that money's there to rip this system apart, why isn't the money there to save it?
And great questions. The money that we have coming in this year is $50 million with the guarantee, or I guess the hope of $100 million next year and maybe 50 the following, for a total of $200 million. What we'll hear is that that's one-time funding. So that they're using that, as an opportunity to say this isn't going to be long-term, so therefore we can't use it long-term. We have to use it for various things in the short term because it's one-time funding.
So we're going to use it for this one-time funding to spend a whole lot of money buying all new signs and letterhead and all kinds of things to create new universities out of whole cloth. That seems like an enormous waste to me.
Some of the money will probably be used in the consolidation, but there are other elements or other opportunities for marketing and recruitment to try to increase enrollments, for DEI initiatives, for some technology. But you're right. I don't know how much of this will be spent just on those kinds of things. We are supposed to be spending some of it on other pieces that should help grow enrollments as opposed to just the consolidation.
Now, so as I understand it, and help me walk through some of this, I know up in the north, they're going to take Bloomsburg, Lock Haven, and Mansfield and do something with those 3, combine them in somehow and create something new. But I guess the argument was they're going to keep the campuses. Walk me through how that works. They plan this to work, or don't they even know?
Rick, I don't know. There's so many details that we don't yet know. There are so many big questions that have not yet been answered. So it was a bit disappointing that the Board of Governors voted to move this forward without some of those details and answers. So, for example, we have questions remaining about the NCAA and how they're going to rule about allowing athletic teams on all 6. You're talking about what's this going to look like. We're not sure. We don't know how many online courses students would have to take to complete their degrees. We're still not sure what the organizational structure will look like. So we don't know what departments or what disciplines will exist on which campuses. We always say the devil's in the details, but that surely is going to be the case in these 2 consolidations.
Now, as I understand, and this is the part that's a little concerning to me, there was talk that I guess the claim that I saw was that no students wouldn't take any more than 25% of their classes online. Is that right?
We don't know.
Oh, we don't even know that. So no. We could be potentially just turning this whole thing over to an online kind of thing.
Well, there have been some guarantees that won't be the case, but my concerns are until we see what these plans look like, we won't know. So my big concern is that students would have to take upper division courses through some type of hybrid model, as opposed to even the lower division courses, which may be available on each individual campus. But as I said, there are so many unanswered questions. And what we did here at the Board of Governors is this is supposed to be an iterative process. That wasn't supposed to be the last step. I see it as just one step on a long road ahead, and there are still ways to correct course. And maybe see that once you get into this, this may not be the best option for those 6 universities.
No, it sounds horrible to me. I mean, if we wanted, look, I think they're the jewel of an education system. I think Pennsylvania is situated to be able to educate kids and keep them here if we could make tuition more affordable. And for me, that comes back to the state actually coming back and picking up the tuition like they used to in the past to make those universities more affordable for kids to be able to go to. Look, if you can't afford to go, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you do, how you move the pieces around on the board. Nobody's going to be able to afford to come.
Exactly. And that really is the fundamental problem. So we're talking about, we spent a lot of time over this past year talking about consolidation, when what we should have been doing is advocating for appropriate funding for our universities. To be somewhere in the 47th, 48th rank in funding for public higher ed, that's the problem. I mean, that's the key issue. And instead of trying to, find a Band-Aid, to try to fix what looks like it's ailing us, we should all be at the in front of the legislative body asking for more money.
No. Now, again, when you think of the state-owned universities, their mission really was, I would argue it probably isn't anymore, based on what I'm seeing, is to be in these local communities so you can make tuition more affordable. Working class kids, first time college students can have access to these universities and still be somewhere near their homes. Now we're changing all of that game. It seems like the mission is no longer at the front of someone's mind.
Right. I mean, and you're right. We were supposed to be the high quality, affordable option for Pennsylvania's working class families, middle class families, and we've lost that edge. And I think, the thing that's most concerning for me, Rick, is that we haven't heard from the students. We don't know what they think about this. We haven't, we had a pandemic. It was hard to get them engaged. And I think we still need to do that whenever the semester begins, to get to those campuses and hear from those students, because they're the ones that this system's in place to serve. And we need to know what they think about the notion of having to take courses online, because they've told us that they don't like it after they've experienced it through the pandemic.
Yeah, most people I've talked to not thrilled at all with the, because there was a point where I was concerned that cyber charters would make a huge impact and really start to harm our brick and mortar schools. After the pandemic and talking with parents, I'm no longer concerned about that, because I think everyone agrees. I do not believe you get the same kind of education looking at a computer screen that you get sitting in a classroom with a well-qualified teacher at the front of the classroom.
No, it's radically different. It's a different experience for the students and the faculty. The other concern I have for the students that will be at these consolidated universities would be, I would be in a classroom in Bloomsburg with my students in a face-to-face setting, and now students at Mansfield and Lock Haven will be seeing me the way you're seeing me right now. So it's going to be a radically different experience even for those students. So a lot of unanswered questions, and I think the people we need to hear from are our students.
No, absolutely, because you got to go now. If I'm a senior coming out of high school this next year, am I going to be looking at one of these universities and one of these colleges, knowing that there's all of this chaos going on? This is a bad decision. This is a bad plan. It's not even a plan. This is just bad all the way around.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, we have concerns about students that are going to these campuses and asking faculty, will I be able to finish my degree at Mansfield? And they're having to say, I don't know. Because we haven't even seen, what the organizational chart will look like in terms of where students can complete degrees on which campuses. So
yeah,
I'm certainly worried about that.
So let me ask you this, because let's say you went to Mansfield, you got 3 years in, you got one more to go, you get a degree from where? This new entity that they're creating, or do you get it from Mansfield, and then 5 years down the road there's no more Mansfield, and they go, oh well. It seems not great.
Yeah, I mean, alumni were speaking out about that, and it's not clear what these universities will be called. And so they're going to have a new name because the plan is it'll be one accredited university. So I don't know if the diploma will say Northeastern University at Mansfield, Northeastern University at Bloomsburg. So it's, those are legitimate concerns that students will have and that alumni will have.
Yeah, and you got to wonder how much you're going to lose from all of those. And now you talked about accreditation. Are you certain you're going to get accreditation?
That'll be up to middle states. I know that they're going through that process right now. I have the same kinds of concerns for accredited programs at each of the universities, and whether they may have to go through a reaccreditation process because they're going to be a new university with a different accreditation than they have right now. So I think it's going to be messy, would be maybe a kind way of thinking about that.
Now, as I was reading some of the commentary from folks, there was also some discussion about the number of degrees that would be, the number of majors that would be available. And in one place I saw, someone said that they're looking at 8 to 10 being the core number of majors. Does that mean they're going to be slashing a bunch of majors at these different universities?
We don't know.
Again, we're going into major change. You're going to completely uproot the lives of students, of faculty, of communities, and we don't know. That's the best answer. And sadly, I get that that's all you got because that's all there is.
Right. I always, I've said to students as a faculty member, I hate saying I don't know. I say it when I don't know. But there are so many details that have not yet been filled in. So we have this skeleton frameworort, and all of the important issues and all of the important pieces are still missing.
So ultimately, because when I look at this from a worker perspective. I look at this as the folks on this PASHE board going, how do we slash costs? How do we get rid of people? How do we get rid of the maintenance crew? How do we get rid of the faculty? How do we get rid of the people who do recruiting? How do we get rid of people? This seems to me to be a massive layoff scheme. And then I sadly foresee more adjuncts, more things that are going to be, again, not great for students and not a great draw, which is then, in my view, really a concern where people aren't going to come, and then you're going to have magnified any problem you ever had.
Right. Now, we're hoping that some of the money that the governor has helped along with the General Assembly, this one-time funding of $200 million, part of it will be used to help preserve jobs. So that was an important piece for us, for our sister union of AFSCME and the workers there. But certainly when you start to cut the faculty lines, you cut staff, it has a major impact on the quality that the quality of education and their experience that they'll have at that university. So it doesn't make sense to me that you'd be consolidating at the same time you're thinking about cutting, if what you're trying to do is expand opportunities for students.
Yeah. How much, what's the number that the PASHE folks are saying that they're struggling with? What's the lost number that they're throwing out?
I don't know what the last. It seems like it's a moving target at times, Rick. So you'll hear about the consolidation is supposed to lead to student opportunities, but it's going to cost more over 5 years than it will save. They're talking about trying to get rid of cross-subsidization, but if you look at the plan, that's still going to occur. So you can't find out what the actual number is that they're trying to, what is the hole they're trying to fill. But I don't think it's going to happen in the first 5 years that they're going to see any kind of good return on investment.
Yeah. So how much of this is just pure ideology? We need to tear down the system. We need to consolidate to push towards privatization.
I think that's been something we've heard for a number of years, sometimes at the Appropriations Committee hearing that there are too many universities. We've heard, failing universities, which is just not the case. But I think that this has been something some individuals would like to have wanted to see for some time, and some would rather go further and actually close some of these campuses. So we were happy to see in this plan that there was a guarantee that would not occur.
So last line of questioning I've got for you, because I'm always a believer of activism, of getting calling your representatives, doing something. We can right wrongs, we can fix things, we can move in the right direction. Any chance of this going back to some bit of sanity, or is this ship sailed?
I really am hopeful that during the discussion of the Board of Governors, they talked about this being an iterative process, that we will, have benchmarks we have to hit, metrics we'll have to look at, we'll have to see how things are going, we'll get answers to questions. And so that's why I'm not seeing this as the end of the road. Just this was one step, and I think there's still opportunities in the future to make a different decision. If the board actually would get information that says they need to correct course, that they will do that.
Yeah, because everything that I've read on this, and I've tried to keep up with it, with everything that's been put out. This seems like a rush job. This should not have been voted on. This should have been pushed off for another year to let us get out of the pandemic, to let us get back to some bit of normalcy, get people back on campus, and go that route. This just seems to be a rush job, and an ideological rush job at that.
I think that you're probably right, and the folks that spoke out, and there were a lot of faculty, staff, community members, some students were saying the same thing, like, why are we rushing through this in a 9-month period of time in the middle of a global pandemic, and when we don't have answers to really important questions? So I don't have the answer to that. I think it could have been ideological at some level, but again, I'm not saying that this is the end of the road.
Right.
Just one more step, and we can certainly have some off ramps, I think, depending on answers that we get.
Who are the targets that we're going after to convince that, I know, I think I read Judy Schwank actually voted for this, which kind of surprised me. Is she someone to reach out to? Who are we targeting?
Well, I think, all the individuals on the board, they won't be meeting now again until fall. But certainly I'd like to see what are the benchmarks going to be. We haven't even seen those yet, Rick, to know what are going to be the things that we're measuring. What's the measuring stick we're using to figure out if this is working.
Right.
There's a lot of work that has to be done. And I know the board said that, they talked about we don't have to think about the how of this. I don't know who is going to do the how.
Jeez, that's just crazy. But when this continues, I hope you'll come back and keep us up to date on how bad this is going to be and what we can do to help. But Jamie, I appreciate your time. Keep up the great work.
Yes, thank you so much, Rick.
Good stuff. Jamie Martin, president of APSCUF. Make sure you check out their website, appscuff.org. Love to hear your thoughts. A good idea? Consolidate down from 6 to 2 without any idea of what you're creating or what's left? You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Quick break right back after this. Stick around.
Remembering that united we bargain, divided we beg. Rick Smith.